Hey everyone, and welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the invisible wireless communication network that's operating inside of you right this very second. We are talking about the endocrine system. You can really think of this as the chemical internet of your body. It's working constantly, totally behind the scenes, doing everything from regulating your mood and dictating your growth to managing your tissue function and keeping your metabolism in check. It is literally a game changer for how you function every day, and we're going to decode exactly how it all works. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll be heading 1, the communication network, 2, meet the messengers, 3, taking action, 4, building the messengers, and finally, 5, the master control center. Let's just jump right in. Section 1, the body's communication network. We'll start our journey by zooming way out to see how the endocrine system works alongside its famously fast partner, the nervous system. Honestly, the easiest way to wrap your head around these two systems is to think about your home technology. Frame your nervous system like a fast, localized, hardwired connection. It uses neurotransmitters fired across tiny little gaps to communicate instantly. The endocrine system, on the other hand, is like your house's Wi-Fi broadcast. It uses hormones that circulate broadly through your bloodstream, traveling these massive distances to essentially log in to specific target cells anywhere in the body. Now, when you look at the hard data on how they compare, you immediately notice that massive difference in response time. I mean, the nervous system triggers muscles or glands in literally thousands of a second. It's lightning fast. But the endocrine system, its onset can take anywhere from a few seconds to a few days. But here's the cool part. The trade-off is duration. While nerve impulses are super brief, the effects of hormones are generally much longer lasting. They're what maintain that steady state in your body over time. And you can actually see the physical difference in the pathways here. On one side, you have the direct, highly localized synapse of the nerve firing directly onto its target. Super precise, right? On the other side, you've got the systemic blood transit of the endocrine system. The gland basically just drops its hormone into the bloodstream, and that hormone gets swept away, floating freely until it randomly bumps into a target cell that just happens to have the exact specific receptor needed to receive its message. Moving right along to section 2, meet the messengers. We know they travel through the blood, but what exactly are these chemical emails being sent across this vast biological network? Okay, the absolute crucial point here is that a hormone's chemical makeup entirely dictates how it behaves once it finally arrives at its destination. We basically divide them into two camps: hydrophilic, which means water-soluble, and hydrophobic, which is lipid-soluble. I want you to think of the target cell's outer membrane as a heavily guarded security door made mostly of fats. Hydrophilic hormones, they bounce right off that door. Hydrophobic hormones, however, are made of lipids themselves, so they literally slip right through the door via simple diffusion. No security check needed. Keep that lock and key analogy in mind. Hydrophobic hormones, like your steroids and thyroid hormones, absolutely hate water. So to even travel through your watery blood, they have to hitch a ride on a special carrier protein, like taking a boat. But once they reach the cell, they just walk right in. Now, hydrophilic hormones, like amines and peptides, they love the watery blood. They swim through it freely. But when they reach that fat-based cell membrane, they're locked out. They have to bind to a receptor on the outside of the cell to pass their message inside. Which brings us to section 3, how hormones take action. So they've arrived. How does a tiny chemical actually change your biology? It's honestly fascinating how incredibly bossy these cellular managers are. When a hormone gives an order, the cell obeys. Period. They can alter the cell's membrane permeability just by throwing open ion channels. They can order the cell to start manufacturing brand new proteins from scratch. They can turn entire enzyme systems on or off, just like a light switch. They can even force a cell to divide and replicate by stimulating mitosis. It's serious power. So let's look at how the water-soluble hydrophilic hormones actually pull this off, especially since we know they can't even get inside the cell. Well, they use what we call a second messenger system. The hormone binds to a receptor on the outer membrane. That receptor changes shape, activating a peripheral G protein inside the cell. That protein then kicks an enzyme into gear, which forms a second messenger, very often a molecule called CAMP. It's this second messenger that actually runs off to do the work inside the cell. So the hormone essentially just knocks on the front door and hands the instructions to the butler. But in complete contrast, check out the hydrophobic steroid hormones. Because they are lipid-soluble, they shed their little protein carrier boat in the bloodstream and just stroll right through the cell membrane.
They bypass the butler completely. They head straight into the cytosol, or the nucleus, bind with an intracellular receptor, and physically interact with the cell's DNA. They alter gene transcription, producing new mRNA, which translates into brand new proteins. I mean, it's a direct, incredibly powerful biological takeover.
Now, thankfully, these sweeping cellular changes aren't just happening at random, right? They're highly regulated by negative feedback loops to maintain homeostasis, and they're generally triggered by three distinct stimuli. First, you have hormonal stimulation, where one hormone specifically tells a gland to release another hormone. Second is humoral stimulation, which is a response to changing nutrient levels in your blood, like your pancreas releasing insulin when your blood glucose spikes. And third is nervous system stimulation, where a nerve directly fires into a gland, like your sympathetic nervous system triggering a massive adrenaline rush.
All right, Section 4, Building the Messengers. Let's shrink down a bit and dive into the actual cellular factories of these endocrine glands to see how we manufacture these chemicals.
Building a peptide hormone is literally like running an intricate microscopic assembly line. It all starts at the ribosomes, which string together amino acids into a massive, totally inactive precursor called a pre-prohormone. Then, as it moves into the endoplasmic reticulum, enzymes chop off a piece to create a prohormone. That gets sent through the Golgi complex, packaged into secretory vesicles, and chopped down one last time into the final active peptide hormone, ready to be dumped into the blood via exocytosis. It's just a constant process of refinement. But then, look at the stark contrast for how our hydrophobic steroid hormones are made. They don't use that massive protein assembly line at all. Instead, they're all synthesized from one single famous parent compound, cholesterol. Whether it's cortisol, testosterone, or estrogen, it all starts with cholesterol. And here's the kicker. Because these hormones are lipid-soluble, they just slip right through the walls of a storage vesicle if the cell tried to save them for later. So they can't be stored. They have to be manufactured purely on demand and diffuse right out of the cell the exact moment they're made. And just to complete our messenger trio, we have the amine hormones. These guys use a completely different base ingredient. They're primarily derived from a simple parent amino acid called tyrosine. By just tweaking and modifying the side groups of tyrosine, your biological factories can churn out things like dopamine, norepinephrine, and your thyroid hormones. Okay, so we've got all of these amazing cellular factories. We've got these powerful chemical signals ready to change our biology. But a network this complex needs a CEO to direct traffic, right? Who is actually looking at the big picture and deciding what gets released and when? That brings us perfectly to Section 5, the Master Control Center. Hidden deep within your brain lies the ultimate management duo for this entire system, the hypothalamus and its very trusted lieutenant, the pituitary gland. Now, to understand how these two communicate, you have to look at this amazing structure called the hypophyseal portal system. This is a highly specialized, localized blood bridge connecting the two. It's essentially two capillary beds connected by venules. This direct physical link allows the hypothalamus to synthesize its commands, releasing or inhibiting hormones, and drop them straight down into the anterior pituitary gland without having them wash through your entire body first. It's like a VIP private communication line. And the pituitary gland itself, it kind of has a split personality. The anterior lobe acts as a true factory. Under the direction of the hypothalamus, it synthesizes and releases its own tropic hormones that travel out to regulate other remote endocrine glands. The posterior lobe, on the other hand, doesn't make any hormones at all. It is literally just a storage closet that holds and eventually releases hormones that were actually made higher up in the hypothalamus. So let's trace how this builds into this massive multi-tiered management web. First, the hypothalamus detects a need, right? So it releases a hormone. That travels down the VIP portal system to the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary reads the signal and releases a tropic hormone, say TSH for your thyroid. That tropic hormone travels through the general blood supply until it hits a third-tier gland, the thyroid itself. Finally, that target gland secretes the final active hormone out to the body's tissues, and it is all heavily regulated by negative feedback. Once those final hormone levels rise, they signal right back up to the brain to turn the whole system down, ensuring our internal chemistry stays perfectly balanced. It truly is a beautifully orchestrated symphony of biology, from the rapid firing of a nerve down to a hydrophobic steroid slipping straight through a lipid membrane to literally alter your DNA. Your endocrine system is the vast, invisible internet keeping you alive, balanced, and functioning. So I want to leave you with this thought today.
Knowing what you know now, how do you think even a minor disruption in this delicate, interconnected web might impact your daily mood, your metabolism, or your energy levels? Take a moment to just appreciate the incredible cellular management happening inside of you every single second. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.